There are a lot of games that try to feel important. You know, the usual big stories, the massive worlds, the endless content. But very few games feel that while being so isolated. And that's what makes Breath of the Wild different. Because this isn't just a game about saving the world. It's about waking up in a world that had already lost, a world that moved on without you, and somehow still finding a reason to explore it anyway. The Legend of Zelda as a series has always been iconic. Great gameplay, memorable characters, classic stories. But Breath of the Wild doesn't just live up to that legacy. It completely redefines it. This is a game that strips everything down. There's no hand-holding, no rigid structure, no constant noise. Just you, a broken kingdom, and a past you don't even remember. It's calm, it's empty, and somehow that's exactly why it works. Because this game doesn't tell you why it matters. It lets you feel it. The game begins with a voice.
Open your eyes.
You wake up in this glowing blue chamber, the Shrine of Resurrection. No context, no memories, no idea who you are. Just silence, and that voice guiding you forward. You pick up the Sheikah slate, and right away, it feels important. Not because the game tells you it is, but because it's the only thing you have. Then you step outside, and that moment, that first look at Hyrule, that's when it hits you. There is no objective marker screaming at you, no forced direction, just a massive world waiting. For a second, it doesn't even feel like your goal is to save it. It just feels like you're supposed to exist in it. The Great Plateau might be the greatest tutorial area ever made, but it never feels like a tutorial. There are no pop-ups explaining in-world mechanics, no NPC dumping information on you. Instead, the game teaches you by letting you fail, experiment, and learn. You meet the old man, who casually points you toward shrines. And from there, everything starts to click. Each shrine doesn't just give you an ability, it teaches you how to think. To reach the Oman O shrine, you'd need to learn how to swim and manage stamina just to get there. Inside the shrine, you learn the basics of magnesis. But outside, that's where the real lesson happens. You realize you can pull metal items, weapons, and treasure chests out of water and bog, steal gear from enemies, and turn the environment into a weapon. To reach the Awa Dime Shrine, you will learn about cutting trees and managing stamina while climbing. Inside, you will learn how to use stasis. Outside, you start launching rocks, finding hidden secrets, breaking puzzles in ways the game never explicitly designed. To reach the Jabai Shrine, you'll need to learn stealth alongside acknowledging that not every enemy needs to be fought. Avoidance becomes a strategy. And bombs, they're not just weapons. They're tools used to outsmart enemies, blow up rocks, and do the occasional wind bomb here and there. Lastly is the Khe Namut Shrine. This is where the environment really comes alive. You can't just brute force your way through. So you adapt, cook food, find warm clothing, think. And then Cryonis teaches you that water isn't a barrier, it's a pathway. The Great Plateau doesn't just teach mechanics, it teaches a mindset. If something looks possible, try it. And that idea carries through the entire game. Once you leave the plateau, the game opens up completely. And what you find isn't a thriving kingdom, it's ruins. Hyrule is empty. Not in a bad way, in a haunting way. You walk through destroyed towns, burned out fields, guardians scattered like fossils of a lost war. And sometimes, there's just silence. Wind, grass, distant animals. That's it. And it creates this feeling, this world existed before you and it suffered without you. The surviving villagers tell their own story. Kakariko Village, hidden, cautious, almost ashamed of the past. A tribe that distanced itself from the very technology that once defined it. Hateno Village, alive, peaceful, untouched. Not because it was strong, but because nature protected it. Everything that survived did so by being far away or insignificant. This is where Breath of the Wild becomes something else entirely. Because this isn't just an open world, it's a system. Everything interacts, everything makes sense. And once you understand that, the game opens up in ways no other game really does. You can cut down a tree to close a gap, use metal weapons to attract lightning, set grass on fire to create an updraft, freeze objects and launch them across the map. And none of this feels like a gimmick because the game isn't scripted, it's systemic. The chemistry engine ties everything together. Fire spreads naturally. Metal conducts electricity. Cold freezes food, while fire cooks or burns them. It's consistent, and that consistency builds trust. You start thinking logically instead of following instructions, yet it enables so much imagination. And because of that, every player has different stories, different solutions, different moments. And that's what makes it feel so personal. We know the story of Breath of the Wild isn't happening in the present. You, as the player, are just picking up the pieces. The champions, they weren't just allies, they were hope. And they all failed, each one taken down by a blight of Ganon. Each one trapped for 100 years. And when you finally free them, it doesn't feel like victory. It feels like closure. Because you weren't there when it mattered. And that's what makes their stories hit harder. You're not saving them. You're finishing what they couldn't. Calamity Ganon isn't like other versions of Ganondorf. He's not a character. He's not a mastermind. He's a disaster. A force of nature, pure hatred that refuses to die. And that changes everything. Because this isn't a battle of ideologies. It's survival. Even the final fight reflects that. It's not the hardest part of the game, and it's not supposed to be. The real challenge was everything leading up to it. The journey, the rebuilding, the understanding. Breath of the Wild changed how people think about open world games. Before this, open worlds were about markers, checklists, and objectives. And when you look at the landscape today, they became about curiosity, discovery, freedom. Even today, years later, people are still finding new things, new mechanics, new interactions, new ways to break the game entirely. And that's because the game wasn't designed to be completed. It was designed to be experienced. Breath of the Wild isn't perfect. The weapon durability frustrates some people and the world can feel so empty. But that emptiness, that silence, that freedom, that's the point. This is a game about waking up in a broken world and choosing to explore it anyway. Not because you have to, but because you want to. And that's why The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild is such a masterpiece. If you've played Breath of the Wild, let me know your favorite moment, because I guarantee it's completely different from mine. If you enjoyed this video, drop a like, a comment, and subscribe to Controller Culture for more deep dives into the games that we love. That's it from us, everyone, and as always, I'll see you all in the next one.